Here we go again. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Multiblind podcast. Where I don't know what happens here. I'm still working it out. More people are watching it. Thank you, 7 people who have been checking out the last few. This is gonna be a story of just poor life choices and poor life decisions, and it's probably gonna be a mess. I'm on my third attempt at recording this. Attempt number one, I deleted it by accident. Don't know how, don't know why. Attempt number two, I had it made. Decided not to upload it to YouTube or schedule it or anything like that. And then my laptop died, and I realized that some of the folders, an embarrassing number of the folders, were not backed up. So if you have been watching this podcast, you'll know that's not the first time that this has happened recently. I'm sure there's a lesson to be learned there, but I guarantee I won't make it. But yeah, let's talk about speed cubing, blindfold solving, and energy drinks. So this was the Mini Mental Milano. It was way back at the start of February. Feels like ages ago now. And pretty small competition, pretty fun. I really enjoyed myself. Everybody was very friendly. All of that was really nice. And for this one specifically, I made a video, you might have seen it, about energy drinks and like whether or not I think cubers should use energy drinks. And I kind of made the decision, since this was just a 1 day competition, I figured, all right, well, why don't I put this to the test? And tomorrow I'm going to try out competing with energy drinks. I'm just going to drink a bunch of Red Bulls and see, how do I perform? Is there a positive outcome to this? Like, is there a limit where energy drinks can be good up till, at least for me? And then what happens after? And yeah, I kind of call it a dumb decision because I already knew from the start that it wasn't going to be particularly successful. I know energy drinks aren't great for me. Caffeine after like noon is not good for me. But I kind of have a thing about, I like to test everything. And sometimes you have to test the bad stuff as well as the good stuff. Competitions are especially important for that. So, when I'm training at home, I have the ability to set the environment up to how I like it. I can go to sleep when I want to go to sleep, hopefully. I can eat what I want to eat. I have at least some degree of control over, who I see, where I go, what kind of stress I encounter. And that leaves me in a pretty good position to be able to actually have some control over my environment, and that helps me practice and train. When I'm in a competition, on the other hand, I have control of barely anything. Maybe if you are financially much better off, than when you go to a competition, you probably have a better say of what is under your control. You can make sure that you get access to the kinds of foods you want, make sure the hotel rooms you're sleeping in are always going to be soundproofed, and you can get driven everywhere. I'm not in that position yet, so very likely I'm going to end up with hotel rooms that aren't ideal. I'm going to end up not being able to find the kind of foods that I want to eat. I'm gonna be under stress. I don't think I'm very experienced as a cubing competitor yet compared to maybe some other people who can go every single week. So even the stresses of competitions and the different formats and different countries, for example, I don't understand what people are saying to me or anything like that. I don't have control over that, so there's no guarantee that just because I know it's better for me to eat fruit, it's better for me to get decent sleep the night before, no alcohol, um, all of that good stuff. Doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to get all of those things when it comes down to it. And that was part of the reason why I was like, even though I know this isn't a sensible choice, I still might learn something about, if it comes down to it and I can't find all of the stuff that I need, then, what's a good alternative? What is your plan B or plan C or plan D? The more of those things that you've got researched, then the more kind of indestructible you become in the realm of competition. Having said that, still probably not the smartest choice with energy drinks. I knew it wasn't going to be a good time. But interestingly enough, when I talk about like not having the ideal circumstances for competition, I think it would have been an even more dumb decision if I woke up on the Sunday morning and there was loads of good food around me and I had slept really well to still go ahead and try this. Instead, what happened was exactly the opposite. So I had the worst night's sleep probably of any competition. The building I was staying in, it was a Saturday night. People were coming in and out constantly, so barely slept at all. Woke up the next day and normally I would go the night before to, stock up on whatever kind of food I'm going to eat throughout the competition the next day. When I arrived, it's quite late, and every single shop and building had like marijuana leaves and stuff on them, and I just kind of got the vibe like, yeah, maybe you don't want to look around here super late at night or start wandering down random alleyways. Definitely made that mistake before. Had a time in Toulouse, walked down a street while just wandering around and exploring, possibly into the scariest neighborhood I've ever encountered. And yeah, I've kind of learned since then, if Google Maps says it's okay and your eyes don't, then it's not worth it. You don't need to do that. So I didn't have any food sorted, and the next day looked up on Google Maps to see, all right, well, where can I get like a shop or a supermarket? And a bit nervous because, Sundays in Europe, some places are always open, some places everything shuts and it's a total ghost town. Well, this was kind of a mix, like stuff was open, but finding it was near impossible. And Google Maps itself had directions to just places that didn't exist. So I spent about an hour wandering around trying to find food I could buy. Even finding energy drinks was almost impossible. Eventually got to a supermarket, and yeah, pretty much I could only buy like a big multi-pack of any kind of bottled water, or the only thing they were selling kind of loose was energy drink cans, not even Red Bull, like very cheap knockoff cans of energy drinks. So just by the coincidence of it, it seemed like I might have had to go through with my objective anyway. And So yeah, stocked up. I kind of said, all right, well, let's go for 1 can per round, and we'll see. If I'm really feeling awful, I can stop, but I'll aim to do that. And that meant 5 cans, I think. I think there was 5 different rounds of stuff. Um, yeah, we'll talk about that at the end, I guess. Let's talk first about actually, like, are there any benefits to energy drinks? Are there any things that we need to think about? I've done a shorter video on this, so if you're bored as hell after 10 minutes, you can just go watch that. You'll also see the summary of this competition. But yeah, basically, when it comes down to it, the reason people use energy drinks are usually for 3 different things. There's caffeine, there's sugar, and then there's taurine, which shows up in a lot of them. Um, I'm not going to talk too much about taurine because while it can be beneficial, um, something can be beneficial without the vessel in which it's delivered being beneficial also. Um, Taurine, while it might be good for you, certain doses or whatever, it's probably better ways that you can obtain it. The other reason that I'm going to steer clear of it is most of what I wanted to talk about when it comes to energy drinks is about performance. Like, what can you do in the moment? The benefits of taurine are usually over the longer term rather than short term. So I don't think it's really a good contender for talking about in terms of energy drinks. If energy drinks are good for performance, I still don't think it would be good to take them regularly. I still don't think that any good is going to come of that, even if there are beneficial ingredients. It's the same as, when people say, oh, red wine has resveratrol and that can help you live longer. But yeah, red wine as a whole will not do that. So yeah, I guess make of that what you will. If you need an excuse to keep doing something you know is bad, then go for it. But it's probably not good to make that as an argument. So then, first off, we can talk about caffeine then. So the interesting thing about caffeine, people always think about caffeine as, the thing that wakes you up and the thing that gives you energy in the morning. Like, I can't do my work if I haven't had my coffee. And that's kind of interesting because caffeine in itself doesn't actually give you any energy. What it does instead is caffeine will block a chemical called adenosine in your brain. And adenosine's job is to make you feel tired. It's basically the thing that's supposed to slow you down so that you can move into the realm of sleep. The brain's really weird and complex when it comes to like energy. Most people assume when you feel tired, it's because your energy stores are low. That's not necessarily the case. The brain can make you feel tired for any number of reasons. It could be energy is low. It could be that you're just engaging in stuff that isn't stimulating for it. It could be that actually you're engaging in some behavior that's negative to the body, and so it goes, you're going to need a lot of rest to manage this and deal with it. I'm going to make you tired so we can get that started. There's loads of different reasons that it can give you that feeling, essentially. So adenosine is a chemical that gets released in order to make you feel tired, and all that caffeine does is just stops the adenosine finding its little resting place, like latching on to the receptors in the brain so that it can create that feeling of being tired. So if you are feeling tired because you're low energy, drinking caffeine isn't going to do anything about that. Your low energy is still going to be there. If whatever thing the sensation of tiredness was blocking out is still going to be present in the body, but now you're just not going to feel tired. You'll just be operating, like a toddler operating machinery, not with the full brain function, but not realizing that you don't have that full brain function, basically. And I can definitely relate to that from these solves. I think the entire way through, especially at the very start, like first one or two cans, felt like I could feel myself kind of coming up and being like, oh yeah, cool, this is actually giving me an energy boost. But then I was just executing stuff really stupidly as if I hadn't had any sleep, but I was doing it more confidently than I would have otherwise. Like I was still just making mistakes. I was just being really confident in making those mistakes, which was interesting to watch. So yeah, when it comes to caffeine, I would say if you're going to come down to it, finals are somewhere where maybe you could talk about energy drinks being kind of useful. So this idea of you've got to the end of the day, you feel tired, you're going to be tired anyway because you're low on energy, but you've made it to a final of an event, then you could argue that in that case, getting rid of the tiredness sensation might help you to feel more focused. The other thing that you don't want to do is if you start taking caffeine earlier in the day, especially a lot all the way through, what you find is all of this adenosine and all of this lack of energy and whatever's going on in your brain is just going to build up. It's going to be blocked from reaching your conscious awareness, but it's going to build up. So eventually the caffeine's going to wear off, and you're going to find suddenly that you get a huge crash at some point. So using it before finals, probably not a good idea. Using it on day one of a 2-day competition, also probably not a good idea because of how long it takes to break down. So while I said it doesn't really affect most of your brain functions, the one thing it will affect is sleep. So if you still have too much caffeine in your system by the evening of day one, then even if you do fall unconscious, the actual quality of your sleep is not going to be the same as if you hadn't had it and you had just got tired naturally and slept through. So while people extol the merits of caffeine for focus, I don't think caffeine is a good argument on its own for improving focus or alertness in competitions at all. And yeah, really the only other thing then that we can look at is the sugar. So sugar is also interesting because in 2025, anyone hearing about sugar, especially in the context of energy drinks, you're going to be told sugar is absolutely a bad thing. Like, there's too much sugar in all of our diets, there's too much sugar in all of our foods, especially like high fructose corn syrup type stuff. There's so much of this stuff everywhere that it's just killing us slowly. And the solution that all the big companies have come up with is starting to invent zero sugar products. And it's become like, again, we need to simplify it. So let's just demonize sugar completely rather than say, yeah, actually, we should probably just be using this in moderation. So you say, instead of saying, actually, a little bit of sugar isn't so bad, you say sugar is the worst thing. It's the new sitting, smoking, cocaine, all rolled into one. You should never consume anything with sugar in it. I've heard a lot of parents when I work with kids, parents saying, "Yeah, my dentist has come in and told me off for giving my kid fruit because it's got too much sugar in it." And yeah, I don't know how we got there in the world that your dentist is lecturing you about fruit. Um, I don't know. That's wild to me. um, but yeah, let's talk about sugar and is it actually a good thing? So, turns out all of this zero sugar stuff might actually be severely problematic. So, you actually require sugar in your diet to stay alive. Uh, and it's as serious as glucose is the only form of energy that can fuel your brain. So without fuel, without glucose, you're dead. Um, and what's a good source of that is going to be from sugar, the closer to the source. So stuff like fruit is going to be probably the best thing that you can have, not only because it contains glucose, fructose, that kind of thing, and it's less difficult for it to break that down. It also has a really nice dosing of it, compared to other high glycemic foods, breads and pastas and things. Um, you can get the glucose, you can get the sugar, you can keep your blood sugar at kind of healthy levels for longer rather than having really wild spikes. Um, but in general, when it comes to performance, especially, we are going to need sugar rather than any other type of fuel in order to be able to focus and in order to be able to function. Hopefully that made sense. I explained it way better in the other two attempts. Um, so yeah, then when it comes to that side of things, actually, maybe you could argue that energy drinks might then be a good substitute. And again, it's probably the case that something like a final or something like a one-off event, a quick dose of sugar might actually be a good thing. However, that's where that like glycemic load comes in strongly, and having your blood sugar level spike so wildly, like with the amount of sugar content that you have in these energy drinks, is quite likely that if you were to do this steadily throughout the day, the effects are not going to be positive. You're probably going to finish the day feeling weird at the very least. Like, just imagine if your blood sugar gets too high, then your body releases insulin to try and combat that. But if it's spiking up and down too wildly and too much, then just imagine it the same as if you just spray a bottle of sugar water all around your room, and then before somebody can clean it up, you do another one and another one. Eventually, everything's going to get it turned into a sticky mess. So that's as good as an analogy as my brain can come up with for now. As why again, you don't want to be doing this for too long. This is probably all obvious. Maybe I'm preaching the wrong stuff here. Probably nobody's going to be arguing that energy drinks are super good for you these days, but you see people using them all the time. And so yeah, that was part of the reason I wanted to make that video, was just kind of talk about like the contents within it aren't all necessarily bad things. It's more the dosages and the frequent use of them that causes the most harm. So when it comes to this kind of stuff, like, I'm very much in the camp of not telling people this is what you need to do, this is what you should be doing in order to be healthy, because to be honest, you got your life to live how you like. Like, you know, I have the weirdest argument way back when I would have drank energy drinks more often. I remember buying like a big can of Red Bull, walking into my work at the time, past all the smokers who proceeded to lecture me about how, oh yeah, that's really bad for you. You shouldn't be putting that stuff in your body, all while openly smoking cigarettes that literally have pictures of dying babies on the packaging. Um, yeah, I find the preachiness of that kind of thing is really ridiculous. Like, if you make an informed choice, then you can do what you want. And there's certain aspects of, competitions are these like one-off events. For the longest time, I think I mentioned this in another episode, I wanted to improve my competition performance, but the only place that I would look at it is in practice at home, because I was like, well, I don't get to go to competition so often. It's fun. I want to be able to just go. I'll eat whatever I want to eat, whatever seems nice at the time. I'll go to bed when I want. Like, I'll be performing sleep deprived, but if I've improved so much over the previous month, then my sleep deprived self in May is going to do better than my sleep deprived self in April, and you should still see the results get better and better. And, obviously, if I was somebody who was in contention for, big podiums, world records, and stuff like that, I'd probably be taking it much more seriously. But based on the context of how I compete and my abilities and, my age in my life, this isn't the only thing I've had as part of my identity. I'm going to make different decisions and choices based on that. And I think everybody else should be free to do that as well. But with that in mind, if people are wondering why they're not getting better and they're consuming high amounts of energy drinks during competitions, then I think it's also worth having the information available out there to be like, okay, well, now you know this. Up to you if you want to do anything about it. And yeah, that's just what I find works for me. So I would say when it comes down to it, I would probably recommend that, if you're bringing an energy drink to a competition, it's not going to be more than one. And it's going to be for like that last push at the end rather than like to gear you up and get you ready to go. That's what I think makes sense from how it's going to work in your body. So now let's talk about how it worked in my body. Yeah, it did not go well. I mentioned already, like the first can, but I think the first two even, I felt pretty good. Like, also maybe also because this isn't something that I consume regularly. Drank it and was like, hey, yeah, loads of sugar, okay, loads of caffeine. I feel alert. I feel ready to go, and yeah, just started getting thoughts of like, hey, good job I'm testing this because I think I'm gonna smash this competition. And I did not. My 4 blind, 5 blind, just all DNFs across the board. Most of it was just me, like tracing. I was sure every single time I traced through, I was like, yep, got it, got it, got it. And then when it came to execution, every single pair was like solve one pair, and then it would take me about a minute of thinking before I would get to the next one. And yeah, didn't get especially far. None of the cubes finished looking more solved than when they started, so that wasn't good news. But it was just striking, like how literally so confident I was that I was going to be amazing for the whole time. So that was the morning. I think 3 blinds, I got one solve, and that was enough to get me. Oh no, maybe I actually got an average. I think they were just a bit slow. Um, that was enough to get me into the second round anyway. So by lunchtime, I kind of knew I had had enough, and then I went, all right, well, you bought the rest of them anyway, so let's keep going for the sake of the experiment. And yeah, the afternoon just sucked. Like I could tell by that point that I was tired. Like it felt a bit like, I don't know if you've ever been in pain taking a painkiller, but when you're in pain and there's actually a genuine problem, painkillers only do so much. They change how you feel about the pain, maybe, but you're still very aware that the pain is there. I had that exact same feeling about fatigue. I could tell I was just drained, exhausted, ready to sleep. But I also had like the feeling surrounding it was, no, you're not. You're fine. You can stay alert and awake. Um, but my body was not acting out as my brain maybe felt. It was quite bizarre. Yeah, the afternoon didn't go particularly well. The only thing I was pretty proud of was that Multiblind went about average for what I'm used to. I seem to be, no matter what number I attempt, uh, 10 points seems to be about average. And I knew what score I got the last few times I checked this, but I've forgotten now. I'm gonna check. Yeah, had a look, and I got 10 points. So it was. Oh, I've lost it again. 14 out of 18 in 55 minutes 54 seconds, and yeah, that's literally the most average result for me. That's about right for time. It's right for the result. Um, so I was pretty happy. Like, given how I felt awful. I knew I hadn't slept well. I knew I wasn't treating myself right for the day, and getting that result felt pretty decent. Like, it felt like I seem to be doing practice with Multiblind in the right way, in that obstacles don't seem to affect me there like they do for even other blind events. And I imagine if I had like uh, just standard puzzle events in this competition, they would have gone even more awfully. So yeah, that's kind of nice. I guess some of that is down to the practice regimen. This year, I think I mentioned in the last episode, I'm focusing a whole lot more on sleep. So one of the things I did for a long time was, set an alarm for 5 a.m., get up and train until 11, and the 5 a.m. was non-negotiable. So, doesn't matter what time you went to bed. If you didn't get enough sleep, tough shit, basically. You're going to get up at 5, you're going to get going. Personally, I think that's the right way to go about that. I know other people will dispute it, but anytime I've seen people become successful at anything, there's a aspect of like needing to prove to yourself that you can handle the discipline. And then after you've proved that, then you start doing it sensibly. So it's like quantity over quality first. Show yourself that you're willing to commit to it and dedicate everything that you can. Once you know that that's the case, then you're going to not do that. You're gonna then look at the quality. So I felt like I got to that point around about October last year. I was feeling like I was pretty non-negotiable and at getting up at 5. I was doing that successfully, and I was starting to notice that, it was very apparent the days when sleep was not so great. Those were the days when Multiblind sucked. So that became the next obstacle to overcome. And what I've been doing this year initially started out with, no screens after 9 p.m. That's something everybody says that you need to do, and tried it. Honestly, I don't notice the difference. Um, that's not to say I won't try it further on in the year. This whole year, I'm kind of going to dedicate to sleep, and if my sleep quality improves more, then maybe taking it out, putting it back in after a month or so, the difference might be more striking. But for now, I'm finding it really hard to notice any strong reason why I might want to do that. It might depend on the quality of the screens. So if I was playing video games or something where there's like a lot of visual stuff going on, or watching movies on a tablet close to my face, things might be different then. I might wake up with worse quality of sleep, but I definitely haven't noticed the kind of rejuvenation that people were saying would come if you got rid of the screen time. And really anything for that, like blue light stuff, where people say block out blue light in the afternoon or early evening. Haven't noticed a difference. Used to do that religiously. It doesn't seem at this time that it's affecting me, and that's with that in mind, I've kind of ditched all that. Again, really strong advocate of, just because people say this is the healthy way to go, you need to try it for yourself. And if you can't physically measure it, one, consider, is there a better way you can measure it? So some things show up in your body in a way that's below your conscious level of attention. So if you can figure out better ways to measure where you can take that into account, that's great. A lot of things you will know. Like, if you feel better, then that's the thing that you need to pursue for now. So yeah, when it comes to sleep, kind of started out thinking about, right, 8 hours is what everybody says. So I'll set an alarm like 8 hours after I go to bed, non-negotiable. Like, if you got work in the morning, tough, you're going to be late. I have a job where luckily that doesn't ever come into effect. But yeah, I was setting this 8 hours after. I always find it interesting. They say 8 hours, but then they say these sleep cycles are 90 minutes. That doesn't necessarily make sense or match up, because 7.5 hours would be the end of one of those sleep cycles. And yeah, 8 hours sometimes felt like enough, sometimes didn't. So I've switched it entirely now, and I just go to bed and wake up when I feel like it. And that's really started to change. So not for this competition. I think this competition was 8 hours specifically. And yeah, that seemed to do the job well enough. Still got me an average time. But I'm looking forward positively to the next ones, because now I feel like sleep quality is getting even better. The only thing that I can't quite reconcile yet is sleep quality on the night of the competition does seem to matter just as much. So even if I've got way better at multi, if I don't sleep well, I don't see as much of the improvement as if I had good sleep. So that's something I'm going to have to think about, because a lot of the places I end up staying with these competitions, if I'm staying somewhere in the UK, I kind of know which places to go for. It's just whether or not financially I can afford those, especially just UK competitions in general. You're bankrupt just after you've bought the train ticket. And then in Europe, I've got no idea. So you're always going in blind. So I guess the next step will be looking at like earplugs for sleeping, whether I can train myself to sleep through like some kind of white noise or something, if there's anything that can distract from the external noises. Don't think I'm going to go down the road of sleeping pills or anything. I really don't think they're a good idea or they're going to be beneficial at all. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. Right, so we're well into the solving stage. Guess another thing with this is I've set up my cubes. This year I've loosened them off as much as I possibly can, and I think a lot of my DNFs are now down to that. The problem is with 40 of the same cube is figuring out which one is, which ones end up in me over rotating. I can't quite figure out that yet, nor can I find the time to plan when it comes to packing to figure out which ones are better to bring with me and which ones are worse. That's going to take some thought. There's another DNF. Fun. Yeah. 10 minutes before the end. Not sure what else I have to say about training this time. I feel like I've said it already because I've done it 3 times. I guess I just talk about Milan then for the rest of it. So, been to Milan twice now. Both very different experiences. This competition was kind of on the outskirts. It wasn't right in central Milan. A couple of years ago, went to central Milan just for a holiday, and yeah, it was interesting experience. Like, everybody seemed to be some kind of fashion guru. Like, that was the impression I got. I don't know whether that's normal for Milan or whether it was just holiday season or whatever. But yeah, like, I always wear a leather jacket. Everybody else had leather jackets. My leather jacket looked like, I don't know, hobo versus all of these like slick, shiny people. So I was kind of thinking that's what I'd be in for this time. Not quite the same experience this time. As I said, like, arriving down, all of these shops, marijuana leaves on the buildings, so kind of was trying to play it safe, but wasn't. You're never sure. Is it just what the vibe's gonna be? But this time, way back from the competition, walked past a dude, like, dressed all black, hood up, mask on, and then just carrying like the fanciest woman's purse I've ever seen. So don't know what was going on there. Then I walked into a shop to get a drink, and the guy just kind of corners me, or like runs up to me and just sort of stands in my face. And I'm looking, and the fridge with the drinks is way behind him by the register. So I kind of said like hi, and he just sort of doesn't say anything, just stares at me. And then I pointed to the fridge, and then he looked, and then just sort of walked backwards, still like staring me down. And then I got the drink, paid for it. Drink was quite good, so I decided I was going to go get another one. Um, so I went back to the same shop, walked in. This is like an hour later. Totally different guy there, and the drink was a totally different price. So, yeah, again, no idea what happened. I'm gonna have my own little speculations. If you've listened this far, feel free to add what you think. But yeah, that was basically all of my interactions from the weekend. Other than on the trains, like all the staff and inspectors and stuff on the trains were super friendly, super helpful. So I didn't get like a bad vibe in general of the place. Just that one guy. I don't know what was going on with the person. It was all weird. Also found on the way to the competition, walking past a guy who wasn't smoking, but for some reason every single person who walked past us asked him for a lighter, and he had one, and everybody seemed to know that he had one, but they didn't seem to see each other. They didn't see him offering it to the other person. I don't know. That's I don't know what else to say there. I guess I'm just trying to fill time at this point because I can't remember how I got to the end of this episode without filler. See how the rest of the solve is going. Also, apologies for the very blurred background. I'm kind of not sure whether I need to be blurring people's faces out of these. If you're just listening to this, isn't going to make sense, but you can watch the video too. There's people walking around in the background all the time. I don't know. I feel weird about putting people in YouTube videos when I haven't asked them. I don't mind to do it so much in reels and that kind of thing. But I'm not going to go through the process of blurring out everybody's faces for the third time. So we're just going to have a blurry background. And again, nobody's really watching these yet. So I'll probably just keep doing that. Yeah. That's about it. We'll maybe sign off a bit early. If you're still here, thank you very much for watching. I'm still not sure what I want these to be. I'm going to keep playing with different ideas. I don't expect anyone necessarily to watch them. It's more just documenting stuff and forcing YouTube to use up their storage space rather than me use up my storage space, so I can go and download them at a later date if I need to refer to them again. Still kind of fun to do. If I would stop breaking my laptops and not backing things up, that's something I could use help with. If anyone knows of any good techniques to remember to back stuff up, because I can't figure out how you can do it. Maybe I'm just too old to understand. OneDrive doesn't work, takes forever. It just stops randomly. If your internet connection is not good enough, it will just cut out and say that it's finished and you actually didn't back everything up. I've got a ton of hard drives and things, but yeah, all varying qualities, so they transfer at different speeds. Do you just need to shell out tons of money? It feels like that's probably the way to go. but we'll see. Hopefully this one's gonna keep me going for a little while. It's now on a desktop tower computer. I've got a little backup hard drive on the inside. Also recording this listening on headphones for the first time, and that's weird as hell. So yeah. What was even more annoying was I kind of made it a goal of mine to make sure I got a YouTube video up every single week this year. I don't think I got it right from the start of January, but I had a bunch of videos kind of recorded. Some of them saved directly to hard drives, and some of them just went onto the laptop, and yeah, was kind of pretty chuffed with myself how far ahead I had scheduled, and with my inability to back things up, I'm now back where I started. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. I have a lot to learn in terms of keeping that stuff going. All right. Final thing I want to ask. Do you know of anyone else who uses my orientation for blind? Red front, yellow top. I've never come across it before. I initially chose my orientation from, I think the page was called Bob Burton's Cube Whiz or something like that. It was like a early 2010s cubing website, and I think in a lot of the images it showed you a picture of a Rubik's Cube with like yellow on the top, red on the front, and then green on the other side. I guess you see a lot when it comes to like F2L algorithms, you see the same orientation used a lot. For like the longest time, about 10 years of cubing, I didn't realize that there was a scramble orientation. So I just assumed that that was like the natural state of orienting a cube, and that's the way that it was supposed to be. And then when I learned a blind tutorial, I think maybe the tutorial might have been that way around, or maybe they also had green front, white top. But he said, hey, you can orient it whichever way you want. I was like, well, this way makes the most sense. But even in the older cubers, I haven't found anyone who orients it the same way. So I'm very curious to find out, is there anybody who uses anything close to mine, or even just anything wildly different? You know, I've seen people green front, yellow up, green front, white up. Don't think I've met anyone who even has red front. Is there anyone who, you know, who has like blue on top, or just something totally bizarre like that? I find it interesting. I also find it annoying because I think I would struggle to get anyone to watch any blind tutorials if I was to ever do them, because nobody would be on board with the scrambles the same way as me. I know already when it comes to competitions and actually talking about scrambles in multi afterwards, everybody else gets to share like how difficult one was versus another, and yeah, I'm always left out because my letter pairs are totally different. I guess you get some similar things like corner twists and edge flips and things like that, but yeah, usually what's easy for me is going to be difficult for somebody else, and vice versa. Oh man, this is quite painful. I really thought that many tangents, and I was like, yeah, you got to get to the end. I swear I talked about less than this the previous two attempts. If you're still listening, let me know what point you lost interest in this episode. I'm just going to watch myself finish this solve, and yeah, thanks. Do check out the other videos. Like, I want to try and be helpful in some way. These ones are just self-indulgent nonsense. You can leave me comments on what you think on these. I may take them on board, but I do genuinely care about what you think about the other ones, what other videos I could make in terms of the short form stuff. So let me know in the comments, I guess. And if you want to do this again next month, we can do Poland. If so, I'll see you then. If not, yeah, see you in one of the other videos.